my wonderful, lovely seekers and finders. And welcome to the Way of Truth number 58. So, there's been some time, there's been some pause in those broadcasts. The last one was over a month ago. I apologize for that. So, we've been traveling. My wife and I, we've been traveling, and I had some busy period. So, it's been a while. I've been missing you all. Now we're back to our regular programming. So my name is Artem. If you're watching it for the first time, my name is Artem Boytsev. I'm a non-duality teacher. I'm a spiritual teacher. I live in San Francisco Bay Area. So I teach the path to liberation from suffering through a combination of meditation, inquisitive dialogue, and compassionate, allowing presence. I host meditation retreats or integration retreats, as we call them sometimes. I see students at my home, and also anyone can schedule a video meeting with me or come visit me at my house. So, in this bi-weekly, so once every 2 weeks, satsangs, I speak to my students, I answer questions, we share experiences on the spiritual path, we share insights and realizations, and I provide guidance to the best of my ability. So this is my website. It contains a large collection of my writings on the topic of spiritual enlightenment, the realization, the transformation that follows. And everyone is welcome to join this broadcast and ask me questions or ask me to speak on a specific topic. By far, the best way to participate in this broadcast is by joining. And I just posted a link to Facebook and YouTube. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And so if you follow this link, I will be able to bring you on screen and we'll be able to have a conversation. So this is a browser-based software. All you need is a browser and a webcam. And that's by far the best way to participate. But if for whatever reason you don't want to do that, just feel free to post your questions or comments to Facebook, YouTube, or that would be the only two platforms that I would see, Facebook or YouTube, and I'll be able to bring them on screen like this and address them. So as I said, it's been a while. We have, based on my previous announcements, you might know that we have an upcoming retreat in beginning of October. I think it starts on October 3rd or 4th, something like that, the first week of October in Oregon House, California. So it's we have a property. It's our usual place where we host retreats. So this retreat has been filled. So we don't have any more spots left on this retreat, unfortunately. So I mean, fortunately for us, good for us. So we have a good attendance, but unfortunately for you, if you wanted to join it, so it's all filled, and I'm really looking forward to seeing my old students and some new faces. So there's usually a good mix between old students and new faces, and I like it very much when it's like this. So. The next one, though, so if you want to participate, and if you haven't participated, I highly encourage you to do so, because those are really wonderful gatherings, really, truly a very rare, beautiful atmosphere of unconditional love and acceptance. Just the presence of many awakening beings, awakening souls. True understanding can be very transformative. So if you are struggling and you are somewhat, let's say, anxious or afraid to show your struggle or to accept your struggle, to share your struggle with other people, then I highly encourage you to try and make it to one of our retreats. It might give you a very different perspective on your struggle and the uniqueness of your struggle, on struggles of other people. It can be an extraordinary, heartwarming experience that can expand your perspective on suffering and where suffering ultimately leads us. So I highly encourage you to participate. If you've never been, if you have been, then you know what it's about. If you have never been, you can also ask some of our people in Discord who have attended the retreats of what it's like. So the next one is we're planning to do in Costa Rica, actually. So we're planning to do one in Costa Rica this January or February. We don't know yet if that's going to happen or not. So it depends on how many participants that were willing to travel to Costa Rica we will find. But if you don't want to miss it, please join our Discord server. I will actually send you a link. I will post a link to the comments to join the Discord server. So that's the community. We have a wonderful community of practitioners on different stages of the spiritual path. You can also find support there. So you can join the community. It's going to be announced in the announcement channel, or you can also send me an email at artem@truefreedom.org, or contact me through any other ways. There are many other ways to contact me. They all on the website. And make sure that you get notified when the dates for the Costa Rica retreats are set. So we will add you to the mailing list. Speaking of mailing lists, many of you should have received the invitation to the October retreat. So we've been experimenting with mailing lists. And if you haven't, please check your spam folder, or search for emails from true-freedom.org. You can also add our domain. Well, you probably need to know the exact email, but once you found the email, if it's in your spam folder, you can add it to your contact list, and to make sure that you don't receive our mailing list communications. If you're not on our mailing list, you can also go to the bio in both Instagram and TikTok, and you will see a link there. And on this link, the link in bio, so at the very bottom of the page, there's a way to be added to the mailing list. So I guess that's it for the news. We have more people than usual watching today. So usually at this point I have less people than usual, which is probably because I haven't made those in a while. But strangely enough, even though we have higher attendance than today, we don't have anyone in the waiting room. So it's been a long time since it happened last time. So usually when this happens last time, that I just read questions that are submitted to my Discord channel, questions for Artem, which is on our community. So I rarely get to address those questions. So that's what I'll do. But if you want to speak to me live like this, then I highly encourage you to use this link. And I usually give precedence to people who show up in person, because in-person communication is much more effective than reading somebody's text questions. So please, once again, feel free to join, and I will be able to bring you on screen and we can have a conversation. So, and for now, I will take a look at my Discord channels and see if there's anything that I can address there. Okay. All right. take a look. Okay. So there's a good question. So it was submitted some time ago. Yavuz is asking, "Hi Artem, hi Yavuz. Regarding resistance and rejection of experience, outside of obvious external distraction, entertainment, drugs, food, work, etc., what are some more subtle ways that our minds tend to reject experience, whether this be misguided active practices or passive patterns of the mind that may be less obvious? Thank you." Yeah, that's a good question. So there are very obvious coping mechanisms that we create in order to try uh, to reject the experience of pain that is coming from the past. And you listed some of them: uh, food, drugs, entertainment, communication with other people, anything kind of exciting. You can even argue that some forms of extreme sports have evolved in a large way in order to yank us out of the experience of our minds and get us into the state of flow where we're completely focused on the present moment. So lots of things externally faced can be used for that. But you're right to uh, mention that we can do the same thing as a as something that we do in practice. And interestingly enough, we can even be convinced that that's exactly what is needed to do in practice until later we see that this was also a movement away from something rather than towards something. So, very generally speaking, uh, you can say that every time you get lost in the thought stream of the mind about the future or the past, especially if it's repetitive or unproductive, if you're not trying to solve some problem, but you are imagining scenarios which you have imagined many times before, and you are focusing on the scenario itself rather than on the direct experience of the body, you can say very generally that this is a form of escape. But that would be too kind of harsh an interpretation that would be too stringent a requirement, because it's not actually possible to prevent it. And the mind will go into the past or the future, and you will get lost there for as long as there is some underlying emotional experience that needs to be resolved. Especially it's obvious about the thoughts of the past, because the thoughts of the future, they can oftentimes be useful in a way that you are preparing yourself for something, or you're trying to solve the problem. Usually it's when we're thinking about the past, the obsessive repetitive nature of those thoughts become apparent. It also can be visible when you're thinking about the future too, because oftentimes when we're thinking about the future, we're reimagining the same scenario again and again and again. It's not like our thought is advancing in some way or another. So a very good indication of what's going on, because not all thought is bad thought. Like if not all thought is even egoic thought, right? So if you treat the whole spiritual journey as a journey to eliminate all thought, you will actually never complete it. You will be able to suppress thought very efficiently until something bothers you, but you will actually never look at like I wouldn't say look at, but you will never actually completely heal the wounds of the path, because during the process of healing the wounds of the path of the past, you will get into patterns of repetitive obsessive thought that doesn't evolve anywhere. That's completely normal. So a good indication of whether you are actually solving something or you are working on some repression is whether the thought advances, right? So how rational it is. So the basically every time that you notice the mind uh, revisiting the same topic again and again and again without much change, it's a surefire signal that there is something about the topic, there's something about the situation that needs to be felt, that has been denied, basically. So maybe you that has also been seen inaccurately. So when an event of the past is completely made peace with, the mind doesn't think about it again and again and again. So you can coming back to your question, you can very roughly say that every time we do that, we're trying to escape something, but it's quite unavoidable. And the only thing that you can do in this situation is to acknowledge it, to notice it. So remember that the very fact of acknowledging it, the very fact of noticing it, means that at that moment you're not as consumed by it. Because when you're completely consumed by it, when you're completely lost by the story, you cannot recognize it, you cannot notice it. You can only recognize it in retrospect. You can say, oh, I was supposed to be meditating or feeling or focusing on something, if it's a concentration meditation, or feeling my sensations or feeling my emotions, and for the last, like, I don't know, a minute or two, I've been ruminating. So at that moment, you are not ruminating anymore. At that moment, you're aware. At that moment, you're conscious. So every moment like this is not a failure of meditation, but rather it's an opportunity for you at this point to ask yourself, what am I feeling about this? What as my mind starts thinking about this again, and it could also be very harsh thoughts towards yourself, like self-blaming thoughts, for example, or blaming somebody else, or for example, even blaming your parents if your relationship issues have not been resolved with them, which usually runs very deep, or blaming something else, or uh, thoughts that are very obviously distorted with regards to, like, for example, how bad everything is, or if you're desperate. So every time you have noticed that you're sinking into this uh, line of thought, it's not a failure. So don't try to stop it. Uh, don't try to find a way out of it, but rather ask yourself, what is it that is happening at the same time on the level of the body? What is something that is being felt right now as you are uh, as the mind is indulging in this line of in this line of thinking, and take your immediate direct attention to the bodily sensations. So basically, the question that in your practice that you need to ask yourself again and again and again is, how am I experiencing this present moment? How the totality of my consciousness, the totality of my body, basically, not just what's happening on the level of the mind, but how does the totality of my experience look like? Is there any part of this totality that I want to run away, that I want to try refuge, that I want to try to find refuge from? So that's one thing. Of course, also, it can take more uh, active forms, right? So it can take, you can have an experience in meditation, for example, that was very peaceful, very blissful, very restful, and then you might want to recreate this experience. And you might want to try to use some associations. Like, for example, last time you had this experience when you thought about your vacation on the beach somewhere, your happy place, or somebody. And so you try to think again about the same thing in order to experience again this lightness, for example, or peace or love or some opening that you had. If you've been doing this, then either of the two things will happen. And the first one, which would be the best one for you, is that you would notice that it doesn't work very well, or at least it doesn't work very consistently. Uh, that's actually good because the, the true experiences, the true shifts, the true openings, they all come without your effort. With your invitation, yes, but without your effort, without you trying to get them, they happen as a result of openness. Just like your openness to your own suffering, your openness to your own feelings and sensations, whatever they are, however unpleasant they are, with time leads to acceptance of them and getting to the root of them and eradicating the root of suffering. Just like this mere openness provides the path to this exploration, it is the same openness that allows for something else to take its place, for the lightness to take its place, for the joy to take its place, for love, for self-love to take its place, for love for the world to take its place, you see? But you cannot force it. Just like you cannot force yourself to feel more suffering, actually, you cannot force yourself to feel more love. So that would be the best scenario. What can happen though is that you can actually get very successful at that. So you can. There are some people who can meditate themselves into the altered state of consciousness, altered compared to their normal everyday experience, shall we say, uh, very quickly. So they, regardless of what their daily experience of life is and how troubled or triggered they can get, and how much suffering and conditioning still exists in the mind, if they've been practicing for a long time, they can close their eyes and rather quickly quiet their mind and get into a rather peaceful experience. That's possible. If you're one of those people for whom it's true, I can tell you this, maybe it was needed before, but that's actually also not the way to permanently transcending suffering. So, to permanently transcend suffering, we must take the attitude not of uh, getting into some uh, place in where you can only get, for example, by yourself, uh, in uh, in solitude, in special conditions, when you're not talking, in a special frame of mind. So it is some process that you launch to get to a place of rest. If it was needed for you for some time, and if you uh, hadn't mastered that, good. But in order to transcend suffering permanently, that is not sufficient. What is required in order to transcend suffering permanently is becoming interested uh, in the difference between that place and your kind of default place, right? So so we need to pay continuous attention to why our normal state of consciousness is different from that meditative state. So that what needs to become the object of exploration. And so if you have been successfully navigating yourself into an altered state of consciousness in meditation, try not to do it at all. So try to do absolutely nothing in meditation and see what happens then. Maybe you will absolutely naturally fall into the same relaxed state, but maybe something will come up in meditation which you were actively refusing to look at as you were making your way into what you think is needs to be meditation goal. Because it's actually quite possible to create a sort of artificial state of consciousness, just like the dreaming mind. The ego mind is actually an artificial state of consciousness. It's conditioned, it's not natural. So similarly, it's quite possible to create a conditioned state of consciousness, which you kind of reach in meditation, and it requires some effort and direction to reach, and then it requires some effort and direction to stay in. But the true goal of spirituality is making the state of consciousness effortless, because it's also natural. If it is effortless and natural, then what requires investigation and what is not effortless and not natural. And most of the suffering, again, if we define suffering as restlessness and difficulty in objective lack of any struggle or challenge to your body, then by its very definition, all suffering is kind of unnatural, and all suffering requires investigation. And by its very definition, we will need to acknowledge that the suffering is coming from the past, because nothing is bothering you in the present moment. So in the present moment, usually there are no problems. There are, of course, present moments with problems, but generally speaking, for most of us, the only problem of the present moment is the past that arises in it, whether in its direct form or in its form of being anxious about the future. But that's what's mostly bothering us. So so in a quest to get to an effortlessly happy and unburdened by the past state, we need to allow the mind to naturally settle into silence. And before the mind naturally settles into silence, like maybe not complete silence, there's still some value in thought, but I mean the silence as in free from obsessive repetitive thoughts about the unresolved ones. So in order for the mind to naturally settle into silence, it's important to just witness the mind if you're not trying to direct it. So something similar happens to the application of compassion. So I say many times that self-compassion is extraordinarily important. So if you're not practicing self-compassion meditation, if you have never practiced self-compassion meditation, that I suggest you do that. There are many good tracks in self-compassion meditation, but also practice it in my retreats. Sooner or later, I'll also release my own guided self-compassion meditation. It's not going to be much different from what you can find on the internet. They all work pretty well. So it's a practice where you consciously extend good willingness towards yourself and towards other people. Now, the difference between authentic self-compassion and how it can be also misguidedly practiced in meditation is that the misguided form of practicing self-compassion has an expectation that once you start giving compassion towards yourself, or once you start sending good thoughts or good vibes towards yourself or towards others, then they are supposed to displace, so to speak. So they are supposed to replace the current unpleasant, difficult experience with experience of love or beauty or something that is really, really nice, that feels really, really nice. That's actually not exactly how it happens. So, compassion is most of all good willingness. It doesn't mean it's a medicine. Yes, it's a balm, but it doesn't work in the same way that pain killing medicine works. Uh, the very reason that you even need compassion is because it's difficult, it's because you're suffering. The very reason for compassion is because it's painful. Like, for example, if you find yourself in a very self loathing mode, or you have self loathing or self hating thoughts, or even if it's the thoughts of hating the world or loathing the world, or hating your parents or hating your life, the experience of hatred or the experience of anger, the experience of discontent is in itself a very difficult experience, right? So even if you have really dark thoughts, right? Even if you have uh, thoughts of like, I hate everybody so much, I wish I could kill somebody, or you have some suicidal ideation, and of course, I'm smiling right now because I understand the mind, but make no mistake, I have gone through it myself. I have gone through a lot of suicidal ideation myself. I've seen lots of homicidal and angry and hateful images in my meditations too. So there was a lot of hatred in my heart, just like in every dreaming human being. Like, if you have an ego, then you have hatred, then you have fear, then you have grief. It's always like that. That's the only way it can be. That's when we try seeking. We try seeking a way out of it when we are tired of the misery of it. You see, so if you're going through an experience like this, if you're going through a difficult experience, maybe jealousy, maybe a breakup, then uh, the the compassion is, first of all, the acknowledgement that it's hard. You see, so a true, authentic compassion does not try to replace the unpleasant experience, but first of all, the very first thing that happens is that it acknowledges that it's very difficult. You know, and then it extends the good willingness, then it extends the kindness of the heart towards yourself in this case. So I wish it wasn't as difficult for you. I understand how difficult it is. I'm sorry. I wish it was easier for you. I wish you health. I wish you good being. I wish you well-being. I wish you happiness. That is my wish for you. I wish that you are happy. So a true compassion like that can not only bring you to tears, but it can even exacerbate, it can even make the suffering more visible. So it's an opening act. It's an opening of the heart. It's the invitation to experience that is held in love. You see, so the true compassion is holding your experience in love, not denying the experience, but holding the experience, acknowledging that it's difficult, but still holding it in love, embracing it. So, if that is how you apply the compassion towards yourself, then it will open up all sorts of stuff, because that's the power of unconditional acceptance. This compassion taps into the power of unconditional love. The unconditional love towards yourself, towards oneself, is extraordinarily transformative, but it transforms through the power of acceptance. It transforms through the power of fearless, honest, open presence to whatever happens, to whatever arises in you, without picking and choosing. So, so it's possible, coming back to your question, it is possible to distort the application of compassion in some way, uh, as try to start relating to it as something that takes the troubles away and uh, gives you temporarily some relief, but it's not a very honest compassion, is it? So, uh, so there are some subtle ways in which you can sabotage yourself by thinking that you are opening up, but in reality, uh, by using some of the words and techniques that are described on the spiritual path in a way to actually uh, refuse to face something and instead creating like little refugee islands for yourself. There's really nothing wrong with it if you need help, if you need rest. So if you need rest and you find a way to rest, then it's perfect. You can do this for as long as you want. But if you start getting a feeling that you are stagnating for some reason or the other, then see if you've been unconsciously rejecting something under the premise of feeling spiritual or unitive or feeling oneness or feeling peace. You see, the less you try to choose what you are willing and not willing to feel, the further along on the spiritual path you'll go. It's kind of one of those paradoxes. You know, in order to feel bliss and peace all the time, you need to stop trying to pick and choose what you will feel. So I hope that it addresses the question. I know I talk a lot, and it's a kind of a difficult question to address, but yeah, it is possible. So okay, let me see. I have a question from Thomas, and Thomas says, "Dear Artem, I've been meditating for a few years, and more often I feel a pull upward from the crown of my head. In those moments, I feel that I can only sit upright. I understand the traditional Hindu or Buddhist chakra explanations, but I'd like to hear your perspective. To me, it feels more like expansion than cleansing or healing." Um, I don't find anything wrong with it, so to speak. And yes, it of course matches the traditional Hindu Buddhist chakra explanations very well. I uh, I have experienced many moments like this, an expansion and pulling somewhere and up and out of my body, and just expansion of consciousness into the infinitude of space and other things like that. I have experienced them both sitting and lying down. So if you feel pulled to sit, then sit. Uh, there is, I wouldn't say that it's a universal experience, but what is universal is that whatever you feel like the body wants to do as you're going through this, just let the body do that. So you say it feels more like expansion than cleansing and healing. I mean, again, you will experience both in the spiritual path. I mean, you will feel like uh, you will feel some moments that you would only be able to best describe as cleansing or healing, and then you will feel moments of expansion. Both will come. It does not negate the relationship between them. Is that you can only expand in the like the inverse relationship between them. You can only expand to the extent that something needs to be healed. and every healing that you do ultimately leads to expansion. It there might be some delay basically in time, right? So you might do a lot of healing work, then you might go through some uh, waves of expansion, and then some more healing work, and then more waves of expansion. So it 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 doesn't always follow this kind of easily observable pattern, but strictly speaking, they are connected. So in the in the same kind of philosophy, or in the same main uh, attitude, let's say, towards this spiritual practice, that every experience that is coming your way needs to be accepted. Just those experiences of expansion uh, are also important, and they also need to be accepted. So if like, I know I speak a lot about the pain and about the healing and about how the enlightened state of consciousness is the natural state of consciousness, and how the thing that we actually need to investigate is ourselves, and how it's folly to try to reach consciousness for exactly the same reason. So the reason I speak a lot about it is because uh, it's the hardest thing to do, right? It's the hardest thing to do, and it's the thing that is most emitted. So there are kind of many people in semi-expanded states of consciousness, which are uh, so those people who are obviously connected to consciousness, the ground of being, the source, you can call it by many names, but who are also obviously still extraordinarily wounded, and oftentimes act from their wounds, and if they're acting from truth, which can, in combination with the fact that being connected to your true nature gives you a certain amount of strength and confidence, can lead to pretty bad outcomes. So there are a lot of people like that. There are actually quite fewer people who are, let's say, maturely and confidently integrated. So, which means in this context have processed the majority of the wounds of the egoic wounds. The uh, practice of opening up to the unconscious inner pain, to the remaining unconscious inner pain, continues to be an important practice well after connecting to source consciousness, way after recognizing the truth of your being, way after recognizing the fundamental, the unborn, way after stream entry, and actually in Buddhist terms, and actually how the Buddhist terms is contemporary interpreted by some people, even way after our hardship. Like, if you interpret it in the way that is interpreted in some Buddhist circles, then even way after our hardship, this quality of openness remains to be the most important. So I speak about it a lot because very few people resist this feeling of expansion. And in fact, that's what people are yearning for. In fact, that's what everybody's trying to. I'm sure, like, some people read your question and it's like, oh, how do I get this? How do I get, like, show me the trick. How do I get to this feeling of expansion from my crown chakra, or however it is that we may call it? So that's why I speak about the difficult stuff a lot, because very few people talk about the difficult stuff, and there is not a lot of support talking about the difficult stuff, and then not working through the difficult stuff continues to be the main dysfunction of the spiritual marketplace, of the spiritual society, and of most people on the spiritual path. But that's the only reason. So I also say that the amount of bliss and expansion, by the way, this would also apply to it, the amount of good stuff, right? So you can say the bad stuff is misery, anger, hatred, contraction, feeling small, and the good stuff is bliss, love, peace, expansion, feeling large. So the amount of the good subjective phenomena that you will experience in practice, in meditation, on psychedelic trips, in your life. So just in practice, the amount of it corresponds precisely to the amount of bad stuff that you are still carrying in your psyche. It's just that the good stuff is usually beyond the bad stuff, so you cannot like get to the good stuff. You can, but only to a very limited extent. But you cannot get to the good stuff by trying to ignore the bad stuff. The bad stuff is sort of in the way. It's hiding. It is veiling the beauty. And so you will experience just as much love and peace and beauty and expansion as there is misery and contraction and suffering and searching in you. So those experiences that may not look like healing experiences, but miraculous experiences, expansive experiences, there will be just as much in them, of them on the spiritual path. So I don't want to create an expression that the only thing that you need to be interested in, and the only thing that you will experience on the spiritual path is pain and wounds. No, I mean, the reason I speak about them a lot is because very few people talk about them a lot, and it creates a misleading impression that it's possible to go around them or ignore them in some way. And the truth is, it's not. But the other side of truth is that all the beautiful stuff will also be there. And so my advice is don't even try to differentiate between cleansing, healing, and expansion or ascension. You know, the only thing that you need to ask yourself is, am I allowing this experience to the fullest? And that's it. And that's it. And the beautiful expanding experiences are easier to allow than fear, anger, and other stuff. But if you're doing it correctly, it will come like a layered cake. You know, there would be a beautiful, expansive experience, maybe somewhat a little bit overwhelming, but then later there will be a little bit of fear, you see, because it's kind of scary for the ego. It's scary to expand. It's scary to disappear. So there is like literally nothing wrong with what you're describing, and I'm not even sure what I can say, what I can comment on this. Okay, Joe is asking, hey Artem, I've been reflecting the topic of ideology. And how it tears people apart. Yeah, for sure. What do you think leads people to political extremism and fear of others, the fear of immigration or immigrants? Sorry, I was trying to fit my question in the word limit. My question stems from having watched a movie, Eddington, which touches the social isolation and fear and ideological war during COVID. It was really uncomfortable to watch because it felt close to home and also depicted scene of terrorism, homicidal rage. So I haven't watched the movie. Every ideology is a virus. Every single one. regardless of what it is. Even the ideology of love and camaraderie, if you make it into an ideology, will become violent because it will include hatred, condemnation, and condescension to those who don't follow the ideology. So the ideology is a virus by its very definition, because if there's an ideology, it means that you don't think for yourself. It means that you have taken someone else's opinion as truth, and moreover, as a sacred kind of truth, because it's an ideology, as truth with a moral value, a truth that makes you better than everyone else. You see? So ideology requires no understanding. Ideology is like clothes. You put on clothes to look good. If you want to be free from ideology, you need to learn to make your own clothes. If you want to be free from ideology, you will have to, when you get in contact with the ideology, you will have to put it through your own mind, through your own testing, a rigorous testing of your own mind, to such an extent that even though there are elements of truth in this ideology, it is no longer an ideology, because you agree with it on your own, regardless of how many, like even if everybody would denounce the ideology that we're talking about as horrible, and it would be shameful to even use their terminology, for example, the elements of truth that you have founded it will still remain. But then by that point, if this has become so sufficiently yours that you are completely independent of other people's opinions, it fails to be an ideology. So the ideology is brainwashing always. So ideology tries to make you think the way that some other people want you to think. And that is why you will see in all spreading of ideologies the mechanisms of manipulation. That's why ideologies oftentimes spread by inciting fear, inciting indignance, appealing to moral superiority. Like, try to find one ideology. It may be possible, but it will be difficult. So try to find one ideology that does not carry as its major appeal that if you think this way, if you take this on, then it makes you a morally superior human being. It's very difficult. Right? Because if we're talking about ideology, then ideology has also an element of moral philosophy. If you have accepted an ideology, then you have also accepted that you also have accepted a way to act, a way to live, a rigid way to live, which you think is morally superior, which you think is righter. And as everything rigid, as everything where the mind is turned off, basically. And I don't mean the dreaming mind, the confused mind. It will not get turned off. It will get redirected towards the ideology. It will like continuously think and make sure that everything runs through the ideology and is conforming to the ideology, but I actually mean the thinking, rational brain. So when it's turned off and you act automatically, then it can be very dangerous. That's one of the ways that tragedies happen. So every ideology kind of soothes you by giving you, first of all, the illusion that you have figured something out that others didn't. Secondly, it gives you the illusion that you're a morally superior person now. And then thirdly, it kind of gives you the blueprint of how to live so that you can check and you don't make your own decisions, but you have resigned basically to making ideology having decisions for you, to having ideology making decisions for you. It's very difficult actually to live without any ideology. It's very difficult because without any ideology, what do you have? Where are your convictions coming from? It can only come from you. They can only come from your own heart. They can only come from your own experience. They can only come from your own understanding of what's right and what's wrong. You suddenly end up alone. You see? So ideologies are a way to divide us. Yes, ideology are a way to control. Notice also that in every ideology, in almost every ideology, there's an enemy, right? So it defines the other, which you shouldn't be like. It defines somewhat something that needs to be avoided, despised, condemned, and then it defines yourself as something that is not like that, right? So I am not like that. So it's not a way to understand, because if it was a way to understand, it would not be an ideology. It would look very different. And there's literally nothing more dangerous than trying to fight what you don't understand. You know, you can even say that we as society create so many more problems for ourselves by trying to fight with intolerance and condemnation, things that we don't understand. Like, for example, addiction, violence, crime, drugs, laziness, you know, especially like very spoiled people at the top like to give lectures about the virtues of hard work, you know. Like, yes, of course they're working hard compared to how they could have been living, right? But not as hard as some single mother who has 2-3 jobs just to make her budget meet, you know, and feed her children. So in an ideology in some way attempts to short circuit your ability to understand and gives you ready, convenient answers that you could take as if they were your own because they sound appealing, they sound good to you. And you can pretend that you understand something. So in this way, the ideology is not that similar from religion That's why kind of the extreme ideologies, like you can call religion basically as extreme ideologies, and then that's why extreme ideologies oftentimes start growing religious trappings, because fundamentally they are related phenomena. So yeah, I guess that's what, drop all ideologies, like always look at everything regardless of who it's coming from. Remove the question of authority entirely, regardless of who said it or how many people said it. Become your own authority. Is it really true what they're saying? Are there circumstances where it's not true? Remain open to everything. So, oh, you continue. Hold on. An example in my personal life is living with my mother. Okay, it can make it feel like we're in the same room but in two different worlds. As soon as conversations become political, one of us is always the naive one. Oh yeah, I see myself as more spiritually attained, and she sees herself as more realistic. Yeah. Well, that's a good example, by the way. Uh, so she has her kind of set of ideas and principles, which have been instilled in her, uh, and they also supply the illusion that she understands something that you don't, and you have your own, right? So yours has a spiritual angle, right? So hers probably has a political angle, but to both of you, this creates some illusion of moral or intellectual superiority. That's why the naive thing is coming. So that's the condescension, right? So that's a good example of what I was talking about, how ideologies, instead of trying to bridge the gap of understanding, create the gap of understanding by giving another person the illusion that they understand. So everything that you take from somebody, it doesn't mean that nobody can help you, but by providing you the information. But the effectiveness of how you can expand your mind by absorbing something as information, not as an opinion, but as information, and form your own opinions. The effectiveness of this process is very much altered, diminished by our existing suffering. So the more emotionally suffering we are, the more of emotional biases we have, the more likely we will be seeking for external answers to validate our worldview instead of challenging it. You see? Because challenging the worldview is also challenging the emotional biases. Challenging the emotional biases, if you do it properly, necessarily uncovers the emotion that these biases are there in order to protect you from in the first place. You see? And so everything that gives you a ready answer, that conforms what you already want to believe, and moreover, also tells you that you're not only right in believing it, but you're also a better person because you believe it, is very appealing for the ego. That's the basis of actually of any ideologies. On what other basis do you think people who believe in God and in a kind and benevolent creator can kill each other over disagreements of what their of what his messiahs said? I mean, it's absurd if you think about it. It's completely absurd. So something similar happens with economic ideologies, like the ideology of uh, libertarianism, Ayn Rand kind of things. So not only all those people that are living poor, for example, not only they are worse than you because they're not only they are lazy, not only it's their fault, uh, but they're also worse than you, morally worse than you. They are, they there's in your ability to be a productive member of society, there's nobility. Then it's very easy to justify treating them however you wish. I'm not saying there is no truth at all, right? In that some people are work more, some people give more to the society, some people take more from the society. But it needs a serious investigation and understanding, first of all. If we really understand the phenomena, if we really investigate the phenomena, we'll actually find that the vast majority of people who take more from the society than give it have also taken much more abuse and hardship from the society. And it's just very difficult for them to give. And then we'll also find that a lot of people who take way more from the society than they give, even though they work hard, uh, are actually those who we applaud to, and those who we idolize. And I'm talking about very rich people here, for example, right? So we need to be careful when we look at any ideology to see what makes it so convenient for us to take it upon. Why is it appealing, basically? And I mean, in your case, for example, as you consider yourself kind of more spiritually advanced and more spiritually knowledgeable than everybody, this is also kind of a very appealing position for the ego to take. I have seen the truth. I am in contact with the truth. I had a spiritual experiences. I understand the structure of this world. I understand how everybody is lost in the ego mind. I mean, this all can also give you this kind of illusion that everybody around you are kind of just naive and they should listen to you. And it's true that some aspects of reality you might understand better. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of things in life that your mother understands better than you, because she has more experience. She had more adult experience. It doesn't matter like how she's awakened, not awakened, and stuff like that. But she's like 20 years older than you at least, and she understands many things probably better than you do, right? So if both of you adopt the open-mindedness of the situation, so if both of you tries to enrich your whole understanding with unbiased access to another person's experience, right? So one person's experience does not equate to a worldview. It's just one person's experience. But just being able to take it as a data point with an open mind, if that is present, that any conversation can be a consciously expanding experience for everybody. But if an ideology is present, every part of every ideology is I'm right and you're wrong, then the goal becomes to convince another person that they're wrong. And calling them naive, for example, is just becomes one of the weapons in this fight. But it becomes a fight. You see, like whose worldview will dominate another person's instead of a mutually enriching conversation. You see, so that's kind of the danger of any ideology. And you can say that every ego, one way or another, follows a certain ideology. It's just that some ideologies are uh, can be kind of materialized in the form of manifestos, and the more extreme they are, the easier it actually is to do that. So the ideologies that are all prevailing, like the ideology of material wealth or consumption or capitalism, they're so all prevailing in society right now that many people don't even think about it as ideology, but actually they are. So anyway, let's see. I have some other questions. Thomas says, thank you for your answer. How is that some people reach advanced stages beyond non-duality, aware of death, finality, and embodiment, yet you speak of entities, yet still speak of entities, hearing voices, or turn to psychics, sometimes taking it seriously? It feels like building a palace from the roof when the foundation is missing. What do you think? Um, I guess I know what you're talking about, but I just wouldn't myself call them advanced stages or like beyond non-duality, being aware of death, finality. I mean, most people that speak of entities, hear voices, or turn to psychics, even if they say such things, they're not in advanced stages. And yeah, so I mean, I guess the only way that I can read this question is a complaint about how frequently the claims of attainment do not correspond to the reality in this spiritual marketplace, or just in the spiritual circles. And yes, it's true. I mean, but what can I say? I mean, it's true. It's frustrating, but I mean, unfortunately, that's the way it is, and that's the way it always will be. You have to make your peace with it. I know it's very frustrating, and I know there are incredibly many misleading people, but the root of the phenomenon, the foundation of it, is actually very simple. The foundation of it is because all experience is very relative. And so if you've been in a tremendous amount of misery, and then you had a shift that, let's say, taken off on only like 25 or 30% of misery, let's say, but you're not aware of the remaining 70, to you it will feel like an absolute grace, and it may feel like this is it. There never can be anything better than this. It's a full, complete, future proof enlightenment. And I mean, I'm speaking from experience. It was also quite the same for me. I mean, I would just, you also have to remember that, like, by the time that I even got seriously into spirituality, I was almost 40 years old, very emotionally mature, in the meaning that have experienced a tremendous amount of very, very difficult emotions, and have lots of experience just kind of emerging from a lot of pain. And uh, so 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 it's not surprising, actually, that oftentimes the people who make the most outlandish claims, the highest proclamations of attainment, and that want to help others the most, like want to build. I mean, it's a very corrupted intent at this stage, but by help others a lot, I didn't necessarily mean uh, authentically, but basically that want to build a big organization, that want to have a very large following, and things like that. So it's actually not surprising that uh, many people like that uh, were actually more wounded sometimes, and more suffering sometimes than an average person. You see, so it's like a person like that could have even more darkness basically in their mind than an average person from a loving family, let's say. Well, loving in the way that it can be, right? So, and that makes the spiritual place doubly dangerous, because what makes one a teacher, basically, or what makes one want to be a teacher, or want to talk about it, is the contrast, right? If you uh, if you don't subject basically an ordinary human being uh, to the manipulative and possessive society, it's not possible for an ordinary human being to even reach enlightenment. To even search for enlightenment, let alone reach it, because they wouldn't even understand what it is. You see, so you have to be dreaming. You have to be suffering deep enough to create a dream and to create a fake, inauthentic version of yourself, to protect yourself from it, in order to even seek the truth. And uh, so this by itself creates this dynamics that actually kind of the people who will speak most loudly about it will tend to be people who suffered most. You see, and usually they begin speaking well before the suffering has been completely eliminated. Um, Oftentimes it never is, but let me put it another way. Oftentimes they begin speaking well before they are in a good position uh, to help others in the way that their suffering doesn't stand in the way of it. But it's part of like if you think about this, the only way it can be. So I know that it's frustrating, and I know that it's very unpleasant, because as somebody who's suffering yourself and seeing the world in suffering, you want to see the world where there is good quality guidance everywhere. But in some way, it's the same desire as to see the capitalist world, in which advertisement is always objective and never biased and not manipulative. It kind of beats the purpose. It's very difficult, like, to even imagine achieving this uh, in the world where the system is structured like this. So similarly here, when our minds are structured like this, then there will be always overstated attainments, teaching too early, all sorts of things, because the contrast has been experienced, and the ego always projects, so you want other people to experience the same contrast, and on some level there's even nothing wrong with it too, because even people like the ones that you are describing, they can be helpful. Okay, so Simon says I realize recurring of negative thoughts of hatred. I know that nothing is wrong and that focusing my attention towards the body, everything is okay. Feeling bodily sensation is not difficult, yet I feel like my spiritual ideas that I formed from this hatred in me. And when the time comes to face it, I'm confused and rather distract myself from the bodily sensations. Well, great. So you acknowledge it, right? So you acknowledge that you become confused and distract yourself, probably as a result of this confusion. So you probably just acknowledge it a little bit too late, right? But you still acknowledge it. So with time and practice, you'll acknowledge it faster and faster. So next time it happens and you acknowledge the confusion, remember, oh, that's the same confusion that I talked to Artem about on the satsang. So instead of distracting myself, now let me stay with this confusion and see, maybe I will not experience another wave of self-hatred or something like this. But but that's okay, right? So just acknowledge the confusion. Fear and confusion oftentimes are predecessor of some important spiritual / personal experience. So if you're like living your life from day to day, and then suddenly like there's a wave of like fear or unease, some disorientation, some confusion, it's oftentimes a sign that soon, if you stay with it, if you don't like reach for your coping mechanisms right away, something revealing will happen. And I have to tell you from my experience that being revealed, when your own self-hatred is being revealed to you, it is not pleasant at all. It is actually very difficult. It's good that you can stay with bodily sensations quite easily. It means that it's not as intense already, right? So the only thing that you need to watch for then is how your feeling of confusion, how you automatically convert it into some distraction. So try not to do that, and see if it's probably gonna make the whole wave a little faster. But yeah, that's a good example. Yeah. Okay. Joe says, thank you very much for detailed answer. I'll definitely be listening. Okay. White Red says, I've seen your pictures from 2013. Oh my God. You did make quite a physical transformation as well. Well, in 2013, I was 38. No, 36. I hadn't even met my wife yet. I was a very different person. It's a long. Not only it was a huge transformation as a result of enlightenment. Remember, I used psychedelics for like 6-7 years after enlightenment, pretty consistently. So, like, it was completely like I cried every. Like first I cried like every day for a few years, then like every week, every couple of weeks. So I've been consistently doing the sadhana. So, and it happens and it was from 17 to 25. In 13 it was like 4 years before any insight at all. In 2014, I don't think that I had even tried LSD. I don't think that I had even tried meditation in 2013. It was all after that. So like there's of course huge physical transformation as a result of enlightenment, but also it's been 12 years. So yeah, it popped up on Google randomly. Interesting. Okay, Joe says, you grow a beard and white hairs when you get enlightened. No, that's just age. Yet it happens, but okay. So Thomas says, people who speak authentically about higher stages, but sometimes forget and say such things, then a few days later laugh, realizing they lost sight of essence again. Is it possible? Yes. Yes, it's possible. But if this is such, if there's such a big obvious change, right? So that if we're talking about people that in a few days can laugh and say, okay, I forgot myself again, now I remember myself again. If this is such an obvious, if this is like a kind of another mini awakening of sorts, then most likely we're talking about what I'm talking about, self-realization. So basically, a state of abiding awareness, the state of when they don't remember that the ego is not, when they don't forget that the ego is not them. That's advanced stage by some definition, and the beginning stage by another definition. So if we're talking about somebody like that, then it's probably the same as what Adi would describe as non-abiding awareness. So they're in the state of awareness, then they can forget and then identify with the ego, and then they can remember and become in a state of awareness again, disidentify with the ego. So that's the jumping back and forth between what I call the dream state and the self-realized state. So you can still have a lot of personal conditioning even when you never forget that you're not the ego. So it's a long journey. Okay, so we have Joel. It's been an hour and 25 minutes, so I will have to wrap it up. But I'll just speak to Joel, and he's the only one in the guest room. Next time, I would really prefer to see more faces. Before I do, the usual, please, everybody. So some things that I would like to ask you. So if you like my content, please comment, like, share. All of this helps me. It helps me grow my audience. It helps me pay my bills. So speaking of paying my bills, you can please, if you like what I do, please support us financially. I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot, but if you go to this link, there are ways there to support me on Patreon or on PayPal. So if you can support me on Patreon, like $20 a month, $10 a month, $5 a month, like if you can only afford $1 a month, even that would be great. So because it's just a number of people. So right now, I think my Patreon support is for $400 something, and it's still difficult to make a living with that. I have some other things too, but it would be great if you could support us, and also please feel free to schedule one-on-one meetings with me. So this is the link. You can schedule one-on-one meetings. There's a wide range of different payment options depending on how much you earn. But we can do video one-on-one meetings. You can also visit me at my house if you live in San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah, and then come to our retreats. The next one is in January. So if you like what I do, if you feel like you could benefit from talking to me, then please contribute or schedule one-on-one meetings. I'll be happy to see if I can help you. So in one-on-one meetings, I can answer your questions. We can also do guided meditation, and I also do the intense form of inquiry, which we call radical inquiry. We also do it on our retreats. So if we do it correctly, it's an emotional exercise, but it's very liberating. So I'd be happy to see you. Yeah, and I guess that's it. Yeah, Joel.
Hey,
Yeah, how have you been?
I felt a lot of fear last night. I also felt like a little bit of insecurity before. I was watching the stream and I was like, I want to ask a question, but I'm scared to ask a question. So I'll just hold off until the very end so that I only have a little bit of time. So that if I'm scared, that's it. I just wanted to say hi. And
Yeah, hi. Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, that's a good example. I mean, you stepped over your fear. There's really nothing to be scared of.
yeah.
How dare you?
I I guess I'll save my question for my question is just like you answered it when you talked about ideology. I find myself like my job is like very like I'm in a position to like call out other people's mistakes at my job, and
Mm,
that I frequently blame whenever someone else makes a mistake. I frequently feel like a lot of pain, and I feel the need to like basically like tell them that it's wrong, and I'm very tense right now even when I think about it because I feel very stressed when I have to like tell people that they made a mistake and they have to correct it. But no, just
Why is that?
because I'm very critical of myself when I make a mistake. And I feel like I am better when I feel like I'm better than them in some way when I call it their mistake. So I feel a lot of superiority. And that's a very difficult experience for me, I think.
Well, if it was just superiority, you would actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a part of you that enjoys it. I don't know, but you're not talking about it. You're talking about it. You're talking about the part that dreads it.
Yeah.
So why do you dread it?
I dread it because I noticed that it like my coworkers are starting to be like afraid of me.
Mm.
And I want to connect with them and I don't want them to like I don't want to alienate them because I find that I frequently alienate myself to
I
be
see. So you dread it because knowing that you are too self-critical,
hmm
you can also start noticing that you deliver it to others in the way that they don't take very well, and it starts kind of taking a toll on the relationship.
yeah, that. And also I don't really like I feel like a lot of the rules that I'm required to like when you talk about ideology and like following like a standard order of procedure that I don't really agree with, but I have to follow because it's company policy.
Are you talking about letting people know of their mistakes?
It's just so the specific rule is like when people don't accurately like input information on their invoices, I get really like I have to like correct them and then I get stressed and then I have to send them an email or I have to go up to them in person and it's just like I dread that all the time. And I kind of enjoy it. I'm starting to notice it more, so I enjoy it. But I dread and even now I'm try to say the right thing so that you don't point out my mistake or like, so it's like I try to like dominate and be like, there's no way that you can tell me that me pointing out your mistake wasn't wrong. Like I try to like, yeah, just I don't know.
So tell me this: what is a mistake for you? What does it mean to make a mistake?
It's when something doesn't match the rule that I'm supposed to follow, or I anticipate pain from my supervisor, like a punishment, some way.
So to you, in your mind, a mistake is always disappointing someone.
Yes,
That's a that's a very very heavy definition of mistake.
because I mean, I guess that's just how I was like
That's
treated.
exactly.
Yeah, it's I am like holding back the tears because I
Yeah,
feel like that's a mistake too.
that's not a mistake. That's
Um,
actually really sad to think about it this way.
yeah,
That's not a mistake. So basically, you're saying mistake is you're basically saying that a mistake is a sub case of disobedience. It's a
yeah,
private case of disobedience. That's not what a mistake is.
yeah,
So it means that you've been punished. You have internalized the intolerance to you making a mistake or to you disobeying, basically. And you're afraid that when you're showing other people similar intolerance, then you're hurting them and you feel bad about it,
Yeah.
even though it is on behalf of the company. But the company requires obedience. A mistake is much different than that. Is much different than that. Basically, a mistake in its broadest definition is simply when the outcome is not what you wanted. So you try to do something to get a certain outcome and it didn't work. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
By itself, mistake is not only not an invitation for punishment, but in some ways it's the only way that you can learn. The only way that you can learn something by yourself is to make mistakes. You can also learn from somebody else by simply copying what they do without really understanding about why they do things a certain way.
Mhm.
But if you have your own understanding, it means that you have tried things to do the wrong way many times. You understood why it doesn't work,
Yes.
and then you figured out the right way.
Yeah.
So if you punish yourself during this process, or if you have other people punishing you during this process, it's going to take longer, it's going to be more painful. It's not going to make it it's not going to make it easier or faster.
Okay.
The only thing that we get when we apply punishment is obedience, not faster learning, but obedience.
Mm.
It may look like someone began to learn, but if by punishing someone we get more kind of productivity from the learning perspective, that means that the person before we started punishing them, they weren't even interested in learning, they didn't care. But if someone is interested in getting better at something, then you can only make it worse by punishing it when they make a mistake, because for them every mistake is an opportunity to get better.
Mm.
So what you can do is, if you find yourself, obviously I don't mean that
Mm.
you should give this spiel to your workers, like, every mistake is an opportunity for you to get better with the company,
Yeah.
because you know uh, I mean, something is telling me that a lot of mistakes that you're talking about uh, pertain to the parts of the job that are not necessarily the most creative or interesting, but oftentimes quite menial.
It's the work that I never imagined myself doing. I always wanted to do creative things, but it's like I was always bad at the mundane, the menial. So I'm like, life is like you have to do the mundane, the menial.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
you
and
can do it.
and the people that you're telling that they make mistakes, it's oftentimes about the menial stuff,
Yeah.
right? So so it would actually be inappropriate and manipulative to to approach it this way. I mean, you have to kind of uh, also acknowledge that quite a lot of them are probably not as excited about doing these things that you then later tell them you didn't do,
Yeah.
because it's not a very exciting thing to do in the first place. But what you can do is that when you're having this conversation, then, as you because you have to do these conversations right now, at least by the company's policies, because you, like, maybe later you'll leave this job or do something else, but right now you have to.
Mhm.
But as you do this, notice the tendency of yours to become critical or to become intolerant, and relax it a little bit. So remember that you are dealing with another human being that might not actually be as happy to do what you are reminding them they didn't do,
Yeah.
right? That they also have this company, this relationship with the company, is that the company pays their bills by giving them the salary, but they have to do a lot of things for the company that they wouldn't do themselves on their own. Or they might disagree with quite a bunch of things that the company does.
Mhm.
So just like with you and the company, it's a kind of a contract where you get paid. It's the same with them, right? So try to kind of first of all see people in them and relate to them just like you are relating to yourself by acknowledging that you don't like this part of the job. They may not like their some parts of their job either, right? And notice also that the harshness with which you start talking in your mind about them,
Mhm.
and the harshness with which you're talking to yourself when you're making a mistake, is the same kind of harshness.
Yeah.
I hope it helps.
I think that's good. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's really small stuff too, and I just get angry because it does feel like a, yeah. I agree. If the only the it's just my self critical voice, like directed at other people, and
Yep.
I'm just like hurting them, and I see it now, and that's why I guess it's becoming more painful because I'm
Hmm.
seeing it more and more, and I used to be able to like not tell myself that it wasn't, I wasn't in pain, but I was in pain this whole time. I
Yep.
just know it,
That's right. That's
and
right.
I'm seeing more of the tension and more of the fear and the despair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful example, by the way. And thank you for coming, because also, like, not just to you, but to everybody who's watching, it's a beautiful example of how, first, when we suffer, we also hurt other people, and we kind of put our suffering on them, but we're also in denial of them. We in denial of it. We cannot see it, and how, when we begin to see it, first of all, we don't like it. We try to stop it, but also how this the acknowledgement comes with that, that it's always been like that we're just in denial of it, right? It's not something new. So that's why I say that any kind of authentic insight about your own behavior, about your own psyche, has always have this form of, hey, it's been like this, I just didn't want to admit it.
Yeah.
And then when first we admit it, and we see how unpleasant it is, we see how we're suffering from it, we see also how we mistreat others, and we also feel some form of guilt, and then we stop doing it, because by continuing to do it, we keep hurting ourselves and we keep hurting others. But it always starts with an admission, and this admission itself is already emotional. So that's why it's so important not to run away from our emotions.
Yeah. And I can't believe that this is the whole path. It's just more and more pain. I'm actually
Pretty,
happy about it. It's just pain, more pain.
pretty much. But also remember what I said earlier, right?
Uh,
Because the moments of expansion and huge openness and love and tears, and they all come. It's like a zebra, you know. It cannot just be pain, 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 pain. It's intertwined with beauty, and as you change, as but basically that's the whole path. That's the whole path. Yes, because the whole state of misery of which you are now crawling out has been predicated on the denial and refusal to feel things, and creating a kind of imaginary story about what the world is and how you are and how other people are. And it gets destroyed and replaced with truth in a kind of in a very intense emotional way. Yeah.
thank, thank you, Artem. And
You're welcome. It's good to see. You come in October, right?
yeah, I'm coming.
Okay, great. So I'm going to see you soon then. Okay, I'm very happy. It looks like there's been lots of changes and interesting discoveries since the last retreat, right?
There has been a lot of change. Yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
and
That's good.
there's still more to go.
Yeah, yeah, but it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. It's transformative. It's very beautiful. You recognizing things about yourself. You have taken. That's what it feels like to have taken a real interest in yourself.
Yeah,
A real interest, like why you behave a certain way, what drives it, what do you like, what you don't like, where the happiness lies. It's like it can get intense.
there's enlightenment, like very trite, but it is very enlightening.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
really, I really want to go all the way. I really do.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's gonna happen. Don't worry about it.
I'm just crazy enough to go all the way. I've done very crazy things, and I don't want to do those crazy things, but I do want to go all the way. Yeah,
Well,
but that is also a very big claim, and you want to end so.
keep open, keep yourself open, keep feeling, keep watching, keep making observations, just keep meditating, keep doing what you're doing. All right. Well, it was good talking to you, Joel. Bye. All right. So that was Joel, and I'm about to wrap up now. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you for your questions. Hope to see you next time. Again, I hope to see more faces next time. Uh, write to me on Discord. You can also send me an email. Come visit me, schedule meetings, come to my retreats. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to you on the spiritual path. Uh, may you all be free from suffering, happy and peaceful, enjoying, joyful living beings. This is my deepest wish for all of you. Thank you. Love you very much. Bye.